Unboxing, check. Speed test with the K20 Pro, check. Charging test with 3 other phones, in progress. Camera test with the K20 Pro, here we go. My name is Ashwin Sundar and this is a super detailed camera comparison between the two hottest flagship killers available today. Let's get started. Both these phones come with amazing Super AMOLED displays, so first things first, protect them with a tempered glass from our sponsor Glazed Ink. What's special about Glazed Ink is that they have actual 2.5D curved glass along the edges, so the entire screen is covered, no air bubbles or awkward gaps like these which you might get from installing any other tempered glass in the market. They are also available for most other phones including the OnePlus 7T and the Redmi Note 8 Pro. So do check out Glazed Ink, link in the description, use the promo code TJOC to get 10% discount. In broad daylight, the 64 megapixel primary camera of the Realme X2 Pro kinda disappoints. There is one major issue with the way it processes HDR images. The HDR algorithm is very aggressive and it works to an extent. Some images actually look great. Here you can see the sun on the X2 Pro's image. On the K20 Pro's image you cannot even see where it is. But some of the images lack contrast. It tries to brighten everything even if everything is already bright enough. And the worst part, they lose details. They don't just look inferior to K20 Pro's HDR images, but they look inferior to their own non-HDR images. Look at these, both were shot on the X2 Pro, one with HDR on, one with HDR off. The non-HDR image has way more details. This seems like a serious issue, so Realme will probably fix it via an update, or maybe the Indian variant of the phone will not have this issue. But right now, for this comparison, this is what it looks like. And in low light, the X2 Pro does the exact opposite. Here there is too much contrast, so the dark regions of the image look too dark. The details are not retained. It doesn't happen every time though, because for the most part they look similar unless we pixel peep. If we do pixel peep, we can see more details on the K20 Pro's images. Some of these were shot using the night modes of these phones, and clearly the K20 Pro's night mode does a considerably better job. The images are brighter, sharper, have more details, better colors, and of course, just like we saw on the Realme XT, the images are also oversaturated here. I mean, it's not a bad thing, it's a matter of personal taste, and the oversaturation actually looks good in many instances. It looks good to me at least, but sometimes it messes up the colors pretty bad. This is a red Pulsar bike. You've probably seen this in person, you know how it looks like, but it looks way off on the Realme X2 Pro's image. And here, look at those apples and pomegranates, very unnatural. And yes, chroma boost mode and AI scene recognition were disabled. So the K20 Pro's 48 megapixel camera is the better of the two here. Now, the X2 Pro has an 8 megapixel ultra-wide angle camera while the one on the K20 Pro is 13 megapixels. And the difference in sharpness is quite evident here. You can even read the text on the K20 Pro's image. The K20 Pro's camera also captures a wider field. You can see more of the scene, but the K20 Pro's merits end there. The same aggressive HDR algorithm of the X2 Pro works here as well, but more often than not, I found the X2 Pro's ultra-wide images to be better overall. There are two major advantages. Number one, it's better in low light. You can use the EV slider on the K20 Pro to make it brighter, but even then the X2 Pro's image looks better. And anyway, point and shoot is what most people do, and this is the result of that. The X2 Pro offers nightscape mode for the ultra-wide camera as well, but right now it doesn't make a big difference. And number two, the X2 Pro's ultra-wide camera has autofocus, while the one on the K20 Pro is fixed focus. And thanks to this, the X2 Pro can click macro shots like this. It can go really close to the subject. It's really nice, you get a new perspective. This is something we saw on the OnePlus 7T as well. Now, there is a telephoto camera for 2x optical zoom on both phones. 8 megapixels on the K20 Pro and 13 megapixels on the X2 Pro, and that's the only differentiating factor between the images. The X2 Pro clicks sharper photos. This is 2x zoom, this is 5x, and this is 10x. On the X2 Pro, you can even go 15 or 20x, but honestly, anything past 8 or 10x looks bad. Again, 2x and 5x. At 5x zoom, the images look decent. For portraits, the K20 Pro has one major advantage. It can click portraits using the main camera or the telephoto camera. The X2 Pro doesn't give you an option to choose the telephoto camera. Telephoto camera portraits have that nice look. The subject looks more prominent. In terms of edge detection, both phones are equally good or equally bad. Just kidding, it happens every once in a while, it's normal. The X2 Pro's oversaturation is clearly affecting the skin tones. They look very orangish or pinkish, but that said, they capture a lot more details than the K20 Pro. The K20 Pro kind of smoothened or beautified the subject even after I turned off beauty mode. Now, of course, all the pictures we've seen so far are all 16 megapixel and 12 megapixel images, not 64 and 48. These cameras combine every 4 pixels into one by default, but there is a separate high resolution mode on both phones. And here, as expected, the X2 Pro's 64 megapixel images look sharper. The K20 Pro's images actually look better overall, the dynamic range is better, the colors look better, but high resolution mode is meant for sharpness. For other stuff, you can just click regular 12 megapixel images, right? So yeah. Now, the X2 Pro's HDR algorithm issues reflect on selfies as well, unfortunately. The X2 Pro tried so hard to not overexpose the background, but the selfie ended up looking very artificial. It happens whenever there is a very challenging scene, like a very dark foreground and a very bright background. In other scenarios though, the selfies are good. They are a little warm and the colors are oversaturated. Like for instance, the red color in the t-shirt looks kind of pinkish. The K20 Pro selfies are sharper, it's evident when you zoom in. And when it comes to selfie portraits, the K20 Pro's images have better dynamic range. The X2 Pro overexposes the background more than the K20 Pro does. As in, a huge part of the background is just pure white, there is no detail. Sometimes even a part of my face is overexposed on the X2 Pro's portrait. The edge detection is more or less similar though. At times the X2 Pro gets it wrong, at times the K20 Pro gets it wrong. Very rare though, not a huge issue. So overall for selfies, the K20 Pro has a slight edge. Next up, videos. Both phones are capable of 4K 60 FPS and 30 FPS, 1080p 60 FPS and 30 FPS. This is 4K 30. Here I'm walking quite fast just to test the stabilization, and it's noticeably better on the K20 Pro's video clip. The quality is almost equally good, no major difference. If I have to nitpick, then I can point out that the X2 Pro's footage has a bit of pink tint. Very mild tint, but yeah. These are 4K 60 FPS clips. Of course, you cannot see 60 frames per second. This YouTube video itself is 30 FPS. There is one major difference. The X2 Pro has stabilization and the K20 Pro doesn't. I'm voluntarily shaking both phones here, but the X2 Pro holds up really well. And while both phones support video recording using the ultrawide camera, the K20 Pro can go up to 4K, but the X2 Pro's ultrawide videos are capped at 1080p. But in terms of overall quality, especially in terms of exposure and dynamic range, I think the X2 Pro's video clip looks better. Both phones support an array of slow motion options. Both have 960 FPS option. The quality is below average, but the colors look better on the K20 Pro slow motion video. On the X2 Pro's clip, there is a huge crop. It cuts off a huge chunk of the scene. Moreover, if you watch closely, just when it switches from normal motion to slow motion, it gets stuck for a second. And there are also multiple frame drops. So my advice would be just use 240 or 480 FPS on the X2 Pro. The K20 Pro doesn't have a 480 FPS option. 240 FPS clips are good, they look fine. Okay, conclusion time. For videos, I'm just gonna blindly say it's a tie. Because it is a tie. Redmi does 4K 30 FPS better, Realme does 4K 60 FPS better. Redmi does 960 FPS slow-mo better, Realme has 480 FPS option that Redmi doesn't. Redmi has 4K support for ultra-wide camera, Realme has super steady mode at 1080p resolution. So it's a tie. When it comes to photos though, well, the conclusion cannot be straightforward. Very, very mixed results is what we saw. One thing's for sure, the X2 Pro's HDR issues need to be fixed because that's the only thing holding it back. Because when it comes to the ultra-wide camera and the telephoto camera, the X2 Pro is better. The ultrawide camera even has macro capability. But the thing is, the main camera is what we use most of the time, and the K20 Pro nails it when it comes to that. Everything is better. Regular images, low light, night mode, portraits, even selfies and selfie portraits are slightly better. So, if you're looking to get one of these phones purely based on camera performance, just think about which cameras you are likely to use frequently or what kind of pictures you generally click on your phone, and then decide accordingly. That's it. Subscribe or don't subscribe based on your thoughts about this video. Let me know what else I can do to improve the quality, except asking me to hide this bed. That's not possible for now. I've tried 100 ways, guys, trust me. I'm moving to a new studio though very soon, so #channel update. Alright, take care. See you soon in the next video. Bye.